The stars looked peaceful through the windows of the UNS Defiant. Captain stood on the bridge, watching the endless darkness of space. His ship was 3 days into a routine patrol near the outer colonies. Everything seemed normal, too normal. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," said Ensign from the communications station. The young officer's face showed concern as he checked his screens again. "It's a distress signal from 442B, the mining colony there." "Turned quickly, put it through." Static filled the bridge, then a desperate voice broke through. "This is Colony, under attack, unknown ships. They're destroying everything. Please, anyone." The signal died. "How far are we?" asked. 4 hours at maximum speed," answered Commander, his first officer. She was already pulling up star maps on the main screen. "Take us there, full speed." Felt his stomach tighten. Something was very wrong. 4 hours later, the Defiant dropped out of faster-than-light travel near 442B. What they saw made the entire bridge crew go silent. The colony was gone. The orbital platforms that once floated above the planet were now twisted metal and debris. On the surface, fires burned across what used to be mining facilities. Thousands of people had lived here. Now there was only destruction. "Scan for survivors," ordered, his voice hard. "Scanning now," said Doctor from the science station. After a long moment, she looked up with sad eyes. "I'm sorry, Captain. There's no one left alive down there." Before anyone could respond, the space around them began to shimmer. Lieutenant Jin Park shouted from engineering. "Captain, multiple ships dropping out of FTL. They're massive." Ships appeared all around the Defiant. Not just a few ships, dozens of them. They were huge, each one 3 times the size of the human warship. Their hulls were dark purple and covered in strange markings that seemed to glow. These were not human ships. These were alien vessels unlike anything humanity had ever seen. The main screen flickered. An alien face appeared and the crew stared in shock. The creature had 4 eyes arranged in a square pattern on its head. Its skin was rough like stone, colored in deep purple and black. When it spoke, the translator converted its words into English. "I am of the Empire," the alien said. Its voice was deep and filled with pride. "You are humans, yes. We have heard of your kind, weak creatures who crawl on 12 small worlds." Stepped forward. "I am captain of the United Nations starship Defiant. You attacked our colony. You killed our people. Explain yourself." The alien's 4 eyes seemed to shine with amusement. "Explain? We do not explain. We take what we want. This sector of space now belongs to the Empire. We have conquered 47 star systems. We have destroyed hundreds of fleets. We are invincible." "You murdered innocent people," said, her voice shaking with anger. "They refused to surrender," replied simply. "We gave them a chance. They chose death. Now we give you a chance. You humans will surrender all 12 of your colonies to us. You have 48 hours. If you refuse, we will destroy every human world like we destroyed this one." "That's impossible," said. "Our government will never agree to that." "Then you will die," the gestured with one clawed hand. "Perhaps you need a demonstration of our power. Watch." One of the alien ships moved forward. It was the largest one, probably the flagship. A port opened on its front, and energy began to gather there. The light was so bright it hurt to look at. "Captain, they're charging some kind of weapon," Jin called out. "The power readings are incredible." The weapon fired. A beam of pure energy shot across space and struck one of the system's moons. The moon was small, uninhabited, just a rock floating in space. But when that beam hit it, the entire moon exploded. Just gone, turned into dust and tiny pieces in one single shot. The bridge crew watched in horror. The power needed to destroy a moon was beyond anything humans had ever created. Appeared on screen again. "That is a taste of might. In 300 years we have never been defeated. Our shields cannot be broken. Our weapons cannot be matched. Every race that saw our power chose to surrender. You would be wise to do the same. And if we fight, asked, though he already knew the answer. Then you will die like all the others who were foolish enough to resist. 48 hours, human. Choose wisely. The screen went dark. The alien ships began to move away, leaving the Defiant alone among the debris. Stood silent for a long moment. His crew looked at him, waiting for orders. They all knew the situation was hopeless. The Defiant was just one ship. Those aliens had dozens of vessels, each one powerful enough to destroy a moon with one shot. "Get me fleet command," finally said. "Emergency channel." Worked his console quickly. "Channel open, sir." Made his report. He told them everything about the attack, the destroyed colony, the ultimatum. The response from Fleet Command was what he expected but didn't want to hear. "Captain, you are ordered to retreat immediately. Fall back to the inner colonies. Do not engage the alien fleet. We are gathering our forces, but it will take 6 days to assemble a proper defense fleet." 6 days. That had given humanity 48 hours. "Understood," said. He closed the channel and looked at his crew. Every face showed the same thing: fear, anger, determination. Stepped close to him and spoke quietly. "We're the only military ship in this sector. If we retreat, there's nothing between those aliens and the colonies." "I know," said. "The nearest colony is new. 2 million people live there, families, children." His voice was steady, but her eyes were hard. "If the attack, those people will have no warning, no defense." Looked out at the stars again. He thought about his orders: retreat, save his ship. Let someone else deal with this problem. That was the smart thing to do, the safe thing. But he also thought about the destroyed colony behind them, about the people who died screaming for help that never came, about 2 million civilians on Nu who had no idea death was coming for them. "Mr. Park," said, "how long can we hide in this system without being detected?" Jin checked his screens. "There's an asteroid belt 3 hours from here. If we hide among the rocks and power down most systems, we might avoid their scanners." "Do it, take us there," turned to face his crew. "I want everyone to understand something. Fleet Command ordered us to retreat. If we stay here, we're disobeying direct orders. We're probably going to die. Anyone who wants to transfer to an escape pod and head for friendly space, do it now. I won't think less of you." Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The crew just looked at him with determined faces. Finally, Sergeant Wu Han, the Marine commander, stood up. "Sir, with respect, if those alien bastards think they can scare humans into surrendering, they don't know us very well. We stay. We fight." The rest of the crew nodded. Some of them looked scared. All of them looked ready. Felt something tight in his chest loosen. Pride, maybe, or just gratitude that he wasn't alone. "All right then," he said. "We've got 48 hours. Let's figure out how to kill something that claims to be invincible." The Defiant turned away from the destroyed colony and headed for the asteroid belt. Behind them, the debris continued to burn in the darkness of space. The Defiant drifted silently among the asteroids. Captain had ordered all non-essential systems shut down. The ship was running cold and dark, like a ghost hiding in a graveyard of floating rocks. In the conference room, the senior officers gathered around a table. No one had slept in 20 hours. Coffee cups and data pads covered the table's surface. "Let's be realistic," said, looking at each face. "We're one ship against an entire alien fleet. They have technology we've never seen before. They can destroy a moon with one shot. What chance do we have?" "None," said Wu Han bluntly. The Marine sergeant wasn't one for sugarcoating the truth. "If we fight them straight up, we die in about 5 minutes." "So we don't fight them straight up," said. She pulled up images of the alien ships on the wall screen. "Look at these vessels. They're huge, powerful, but they're also slow. They move like freight haulers, not warships." "That doesn't help us much," Jin pointed out. "We might be faster, but their shields will stop anything we throw at them." leaned forward, her eyes bright despite the exhaustion on her face. "What if we study their shields, find a weakness?" "How?" Wu asked. "We'd need to get close enough to scan them. They'd blow us apart before we got within range." "Not if they're chasing us," said slowly. A smile started to form on her face. "What if we let them find us? One ship, just one. We lead it through the asteroid field, damage it, and capture some of their technology, maybe even capture one of their crew." Thought about it, it was dangerous. Insane even, but it might work. "Do it," he said, "but carefully, we get one chance at this." The Defiant powered up its engines just enough to be detected. It didn't take long. Within 2 hours, one of the alien destroyers found them and began the hunt. The chase through the asteroid field was like nothing the crew had ever experienced. The destroyer was 3 times their size, but moved with surprising speed. Its weapons fired constantly, purple beams of energy that turned asteroids into vapor. "Hard left," shouted as another beam barely missed them. Jin was routing power to the engines manually, pushing them beyond their normal limits. The ship shook and groaned, but it responded. They dove under a massive asteroid, then shot up between 2 others that were so close together they scraped the hull. The ship tried to follow but was too big. It had to go around, and that gave the Defiant precious seconds. "Their weapons recharge every 8 seconds, called out from her station. "I'm seeing a pattern." "Can you predict when they'll fire?" asked. "I think so, yes." "Then tell me when, and I'll move us." Hands flew over the navigation controls. For the next 30 minutes they played a deadly game, would count down the seconds, fire in 3, 2, 1, now, and would dodge, moving the ship just before the beam arrived. The weapons kept missing by smaller and smaller margins. Then saw their opportunity. A large asteroid with a hollow center, like a tunnel through solid rock. "Take us through that tunnel," he ordered, full speed. "Sir, if I miscalculate by even a meter, we'll crash," Jin said. "I trust you, do it." The Defiant shot forward into the tunnel. The walls were so close that the crew could see individual rocks scraping past the windows. Behind them, the destroyer followed, confident in its pursuit. That was its mistake. "Now," shouted. Jin fired the rear missiles, not at the alien ship, but at the tunnel walls behind them. The explosions brought down tons of rock, and the destroyer flew straight into the collapse. The asteroid fragments hammered into its hull and shields. When the Defiant emerged from the other side of the tunnel, they spun around quickly. The alien ship came through a moment later, its shields flickering and weak from the impacts. "All weapons fire," ordered. Every gun on the Defiant opened up at once. Normally, the shots would have bounced off the shields, but the shields were weak now, struggling to recover. Some shots got through. The alien destroyer's engines exploded. The ship listed to one side, dead in space. "Life signs?" asked. "Reading multiple contacts inside," confirmed. "Some are injured, but many are still alive." "Wu, take your Marines, board that ship. I want prisoners and technology, everything you can carry." Sergeant Wu grinned. "With pleasure, sir." The Marines suited up and crossed the empty space between the 2 ships. They cut through the damaged hull and entered the alien vessel. The inside tried to fight, but they were designed for ship-to-ship combat, not close-quarters battle. The Marines had trained for this their entire careers. 20 minutes later, Wu reported back. "We've got one prisoner, sir. Calls himself sub-commander. He's injured but stable. Also grabbed some of their equipment and a data core from their computer." "Bring him to the brig, and Wu, good work." "Thank you, sir." Sub-commander was tall, nearly 7 feet, with the same 4 eyes and stone-like skin as his. But unlike, this one looked afraid. He was wounded, his purple blood staining the medical wrappings the Marines had applied, and stood outside his cell, watching him through the force field. "Will you answer our questions?" asked. laughed, though it sounded more like rocks grinding together. "You are dead already, human. You just don't know it yet. The will come for me. He will destroy you and this pathetic ship." "Maybe," said calmly. "But right now you're our prisoner. You can help us, or you can sit in that cell until your air runs out." The alien's four eyes narrowed. "What do you want to know?" "Your shields, how do they work?" Laughed again, a cruel sound. "Our shields are perfect, mathematically perfect. In 300 years no weapon has ever broken them. They adapt to any attack. They analyze the energy pattern and counter it with the opposite frequency. The more you shoot at us, the stronger they become." Was recording everything, her tablet making notes. "What about physical attacks?" "Same principle. They can deflect asteroids, missiles, anything solid. We are invincible. This is why 47 civilizations have surrendered to us. This is why you will surrender too." "We already destroyed one of your ships," pointed out. "You ambushed a single destroyer when its shields were compromised. Try that against our fleet and you will die." Leaned forward, his eyes glowing with contempt. "You humans are soft, fragile, your ships are weak. Your weapons are primitive. You fight with honor and rules. That is why you will lose. The Empire takes what it wants. We do not ask. We do not negotiate. We conquer." "We'll see about that," said quietly. Back on the bridge, the senior officers reviewed what they'd learned. The data core that Wu's Marines had captured was being analyzed by Jin and "This is fascinating," said, pulling up diagrams on the main screen. "Look at this. Their shield technology is incredibly advanced. It really does adapt to counter whatever hits it." "So it's impossible to break?" asked. "Not impossible, just very, very difficult." Zoomed in on a section of the data. "The shields work by analyzing incoming weapons and generating an opposite energy pattern. But here's the thing. They're designed to counter known weapons. Lasers, missiles, plasma cannons. All the standard stuff that advanced civilizations use." "What are you thinking?" asked. "I'm thinking that their shields have never faced something truly random, something chaotic and unpredictable," smiled. "What if we hit them with everything at once? Different energy types, different frequencies, all mixed together in a pattern that keeps changing." Jin's eyes went wide. "The shields wouldn't know what to counter. They'd try to adapt to everything simultaneously and might fail." "It's a theory," admitted, "but it's the only weakness I can see." Stood up and started packing. "We need weapons that can produce chaotic energy, random patterns." "We don't have weapons like that," Wu said. "Then we make them," Jin replied. He was already pulling up the ship's systems on his pad. "Look, we have industrial plasma cutters for repairs. We have mining lasers we picked up from the last supply depot. We even have the radiation from our reactor core. What if we turn all of that into weapons?" "That's insane," Wu said, but he was smiling. "Insane is all we've got," said. "Do it. Modify everything you can. We've got 30 hours left before the deadline. Let's show these invincible aliens what happens when they underestimate humanity." The crew went to work with desperate energy. They had a plan now, a crazy, impossible plan, but it was better than waiting to die. The Defiant hid in the magnetic field of a nearby gas giant. The powerful electromagnetic radiation from the planet would hide them from scanners, at least for a while. But the same radiation made the crews work harder, interfering with their equipment and making everyone feel sick and dizzy. Jin hadn't slept in 26 hours. His eyes were red and his hands shook slightly as he worked on the modifications. But he refused to stop. Around him, the engineering deck looked like a disaster zone. Panels were torn open, wires hung from the ceiling, and spare parts covered every surface. "How's it coming?" asked, bringing him another cup of coffee. "It's coming," Jin said, taking the cup gratefully. "I've rerouted power from the plasma cutters to create a secondary weapons array. It won't be pretty, but it'll work. The mining lasers are harder. They were never meant to fire rapidly, so they overheat after 3 shots. Can you fix that? I can vent the heat directly into space. It'll work for maybe 10 shots before the whole system melts. Jin laughed tiredly. After that, we'll have very expensive garbage. Patted his shoulder. 10 shots might be all we need. Keep going. Across the ship, Specialist Song was working on an even crazier idea. She had opened up the reactor shielding and was installing new conduits that would channel waste radiation directly to emitters on the hull. "This is the thing I've ever done," she muttered to herself. "We're basically turning the ship into a giant microwave oven." "Will it kill the?" asked one of her assistants. "It'll definitely do something. Whether it kills them or just makes them angry, I guess we'll find out," wiped sweat from her face. The heat from the reactor was intense this close. "Hand me that connector." Up on the bridge was working on battle tactics. She had every manual on space combat pulled up on multiple screens, and she was violating every rule in every single one of them. Traditional fleet combat was about formations, coordinated fire, and predictable maneuvers. What was planning was the opposite: random movements, chaotic attacks from unpredictable angles. No pattern, no rhythm, no logic. "They have fought for 300 years, she said too, showing him her plans. "They've seen every standard tactic. They know how normal military forces fight, so we don't fight normal." Studied the diagrams. They showed the Defiant making impossible turns, firing weapons in every direction at once, even deliberately flying into debris fields. It looked like madness. "You want us to fly like drunk pilots," he said. "Exactly. If they can't predict our moves, their perfect shields can't pre-adapt. We stay random. We stay alive. Or we crash into an asteroid and die instantly." "That too," admitted, "but at least we go down fighting." Ensign was having better luck at his station. He'd been working on the data core, trying to crack their communications encryption. After 18 hours of work, he finally broke through. "Captain," he called out excitedly, "I'm into their communications network. I can hear everything their fleet is saying to each other." Hurried over. "What are they saying?" Played the intercepted messages. Even through the translation, the voices sounded arrogant and dismissive. "The human deadline expires in 36 hours. Should we begin moving toward their colonies?" "Yes, assemble the fleet at Colony. It is their largest settlement in this sector. When the deadline passes and they refuse to surrender, we will destroy it as an example. Then the other colonies will beg for mercy." Felt ice in his stomach. Colony knew 2 million people. "They're not even waiting for our answer," said quietly. "They've already decided to attack." "There's more," said, playing another message. "Listen to this. What about the human warship that attacked our destroyer?" "Irrelevant. It is one small vessel. We have assigned 3 destroyers to hunt it down and eliminate it. The rest of the fleet will proceed with the attack on schedule." Laughter came through the speakers, cold, mocking laughter. "The humans actually think they can fight us. It is almost sad. They will learn as all the others learned. The Empire cannot be defeated." Turned away from the console. His hands were clenched into fists. Around him, the bridge crew looked angry and determined. 36 hours, he said. "That's all the time those people have. Fleet Command can't get here in time. No one can help them." "Except us," Wu said from the doorway. The Marine sergeant had come up from the armory. "Sir, my people are ready. We've been practicing boarding actions using the captured ship data. If we can get close enough, we can do real damage." "How are the modifications coming?" asked. "Jin says another 6 hours, says 4. The weapons team say they need 8. Wu shrugged. "Average it out and we'll be ready in about 6 hours. 6 hours to finish preparations, then 30 hours to reach Colony. That would put them there just as the fleet arrived." Made his decision. "Tell everyone to work faster. We leave in 4 hours, ready or not." The next 4 hours were chaos. The entire crew worked like they'd never worked before. Jin and his team finished the plasma cutter modifications with 17 minutes to spare. Got the radiation emitters working, though she warned they'd only last for maybe 3 uses before burning out. The weapons specialists managed to jury-rig the mining lasers to fire 8 times instead of 3. It wasn't much, but it was better than nothing. Programmed her chaotic flight patterns into the navigation computer. The system kept flagging them as errors, warning that the maneuvers were dangerous or impossible. She overrode every warning. Completed her analysis of the shields. She'd found their exact frequency patterns and figured out which random energy combinations had the best chance of overwhelming them. She shared the data with everyone. Remember, she told the bridge crew, their shields are smart. They'll try to adapt, so we can't use the same attack twice. Every shot has to be different. Every approach has to be unique. In other words, we make it up as we go, said. Pretty much, yes. Wu gathered his 40 Marines in the cargo bay. They checked their weapons, their suits, their equipment. Everyone knew this would probably be their last mission. No one complained. No one backed down. Listen up, Wu told them. We're going into a fight against an enemy that's bigger, stronger, and more advanced than us. They think they're invincible. They think we're weak. They think we'll surrender or die easily. He paused, looking at each face. Let's prove them wrong. The Marines responded with a shout. Not words, just a wordless roar of defiance. Finally, everything was ready. The Defiant powered up its engines, preparing to leave the safety of the gas giant's magnetic field. Stood on the bridge looking at his crew. They looked exhausted, scared, but also ready. I want everyone to understand what we're about to do, he said. We're going to fly directly into a fleet that has never been beaten, a fleet that destroyed a moon with one shot. We're going to attack them with improvised weapons and crazy tactics. Most military experts would say this is suicide. He paused, then smiled grimly. But we're not doing this for military experts. We're doing this for 2 million people who don't even know they're about to die. We're doing this because someone has to. We're doing this because those alien bastards think humans are weak and fragile. They think we'll break easily. His voice grew stronger. They're about to learn something that every enemy of humanity eventually learns. We don't break. We bend, we adapt, we find a way. And when you push us hard enough, we push back. Harder. The crew was standing now, every person at attention. The claim they're invincible. Well, invincible just means no one's tried hard enough yet. Today, we try hard enough. Today, we show them what humans are really made of. Navigation, set course for colony, maximum speed. Course set, Captain. Engineering, give me everything the engines have got. Engines at full power, sir. Weapons, charge all systems. Weapons charged and ready. Sat in his captain's chair and gripped the armrests. All hands, battle stations. We're going to war. The Defiant shot forward, leaving the gas giant behind. Ahead of them, 30 hours away, the fleet was gathering. They had no idea that one small human warship was racing toward them. They had no idea that humanity was about to bite back. And they would never see it coming. The Defiant dropped out of faster-than-light travel right in the middle of the fleet. It was the most dangerous jump possible, appearing directly among enemy ships instead of at a safe distance. Every regulation said never to do this. Every manual called it suicide. That's exactly why I chose it. The ships were arranged in a standard formation around colony, preparing to bombard the planet. 43 warships, including the massive flagship where commanded. They were organized, disciplined, perfect. Then suddenly, a human ship appeared right in the middle of them. For 3 full seconds, nobody on either side moved. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. No one had ever attacked them like this. No one had ever been this crazy. Use those 3 seconds well. All weapons fire everything we have. The Defiant unleashed chaos. The modified plasma cutters fired in 8 different directions at once. The mining lasers shot beams of cutting energy at the closest ship. The radiation emitters dumped waves of heat and electromagnetic energy across the entire area. Every improvised weapon system fired simultaneously. And it worked. The shields designed to counter specific weapons didn't know what to do. The energy patterns were too random, too mixed, too chaotic. Some shots bounced off harmlessly, but others got through. A mining laser carved a line across a destroyer's hull. Plasma cutters melted through the armor of a cruiser. Radiation caused the shields on another ship to flicker and fail. The finally reacted, but they were confused. Their weapons fired, but the Defiant was already moving. Had programmed the navigation computer to make random movements every 2 seconds. Up, down, spinning, diving. There was no pattern to predict. "Broadcasting on all channels," said calmly into the communications system. "This is Captain to the fleet. You wanted to see how humans break. Let me show you how we bite back." Purple energy beams filled the space around them. They were firing everything they had, but they kept missing. The Defiant was moving too erratically, changing direction too fast. Jin was in engineering, manually routing power to different systems every few seconds. Engines, weapons, shields, then back again. Nothing stayed powered for more than moments. It made the ship's energy signature impossible to lock onto. "Hull temperature rising," someone shouted. "The radiation emitters are cooking us." "Vent it through the port side," Jin yelled back. "Use it as a weapon." The Defiant spun to port, releasing a wave of superheated gas and radiation. A destroyer flew right into it. Its shields tried to compensate but couldn't handle the random energy signature. The destroyer's hull began to glow red-hot. On the bridge, watched the tactical display. They damaged 4 ships, destroyed one, and thrown the entire formation into chaos. But it couldn't last. "Captain, shields at 40%, called the defensive officer. "Keep moving," ordered. The Defiant dove under the flagship, so close that they could see the details of its massive hull. Every gun on the human ship fired upward as they passed. Most shots bounced off the flagship's powerful shields, but a few got through, leaving black scorch marks on the purple metal. In the cargo bay, Wu and his Marines were waiting. They'd been watching the battle on monitors, waiting for their moment. "There," Wu shouted, pointing at the screen. One of the destroyers had taken heavy damage. Its shields were down and there was a breach in its hull. "That's our target." "Get us close," ordered when Wu called the bridge. Spun the ship around and accelerated toward the damaged destroyer. Weapons fire chased them, getting closer. One beam grazed their shields, making the whole ship shake. "Now," Wu shouted. The Marines launched from the cargo bay in their combat suits, crossing the empty space between the ships. Point defense guns tried to shoot them down, but the Marines were small targets moving fast. 38 of the 40 made it across. 2 were hit and tumbled away into space, their suits rupturing. Wu led his team through the breach in the hull. Inside, they found chaos. The alien ship was damaged and venting atmosphere. Warriors tried to stop them, firing energy weapons in the narrow corridors. But the Marines had trained for close combat. They moved as a unit, covering each other, advancing through the ship. Their goal wasn't to capture it. It was to destroy it from the inside. "Plant the charges," Wu ordered. "Every major system you can find." The Marines spread through the destroyer, placing explosives on power conduits, weapons systems, and structural supports. They fought desperately, but they weren't prepared for this kind of warfare. Back in space, the Defiant was running out of luck. More ships were joining the battle. The human vessel was fast and unpredictable, but it was just one ship against dozens. "Shields failing," the defensive officer reported. "Hull breaches on decks 4 and 7. "Seal those sections," ordered. "Keep fighting." The mining lasers fired their last shots and burned out. The plasma cutters were overheating. The radiation emitters had already failed. The Defiant was running out of weapons and options. Then himself entered the battle. The flagship was 5 times larger than any other ship in the fleet. Its weapons were powerful enough to crack a planet's crust, and it was moving toward the Defiant with terrible purpose. "Captain, the flagship is targeting us," said. Her voice was steady, but everyone could hear the fear underneath. "If that thing fires, we're dead." Looked at the tactical display. The flagship's main weapon was charging. They had maybe 20 seconds. Then Wu's voice crackled over the radio. "All charges set. We're getting out now." "Do it," responded. On the damaged destroyer, the Marines rushed back to the breach point. Behind them, the charges they'd planted began to explode. Chain reactions ran through the ship systems. The reactor started to overload. The Marines launched themselves back into space just as the destroyer exploded. The blast was massive, catching 2 other ships in its radius. All 3 vessels broke apart, adding to the debris field. But the Defiant had no time to celebrate. The flagship fired. The beam of energy was unlike anything they'd faced. It was pure destruction, powered by a reactor the size of a building. When it hit, the Defiant's shields lasted exactly 1 second before collapsing completely. The beam tore through the hull. Decks 3 through 6 simply ceased to exist, vaporized in an instant. The engineering section was ripped open. The weapons systems went offline. Life support began failing. Jin was thrown across engineering as the deck exploded around him. He crashed into a wall and felt ribs break. Emergency alarms screamed. Fires started everywhere. But he was still alive, and he could still reach the reactor controls. On the bridge, half the consoles were dead. The main screen showed only static. His chair had been torn from its mounts, and he was bleeding from a cut on his head. "Damage report," he called out. "Engineering is gone," someone shouted back. "Weapons offline, engines at 15%, we're dead in space." The flagship turned, preparing to fire again. This time, there would be nothing left of the Defiant to identify. But was still at her station, and she saw something on her sensors. "Captain, the reactor is going critical." "Jin's doing it," said quietly. "He's triggering the overload just like we planned." The backup plan, the last resort. If everything else failed, they would turn the Defiant itself into a weapon, ram the flagship and detonate the reactor at point-blank range. "All hands abandon ship," ordered. "Get to the escape pods, move." The crew started rushing for the exits, but stayed on the bridge, looking at the engine controls. Someone had to steer the ship for the final run. "Go," he told. "Get everyone out." "Not without you," said. "That's in order." "Court-martial me later," strapped herself into the co-pilot seat. "Let's kill that bastard." Wanted to argue, but there was no time. The flagship was charging weapons again. "Fine," he said, "but you're buying the drinks in whatever afterlife we end up in." "Deal." Down in engineering, Jin crawled across the broken deck toward the reactor controls. Every breath hurt. His vision was blurry, but he could see the console, see the manual override. He thought about his family back on Earth, his parents who'd been so proud when he joined the fleet, his sister who always said he was too smart to be a soldier. He wished he could tell them goodbye. "This is for you," he whispered, "for everyone." Jin's hand reached the override. He activated the full reactor breach. Deep in the Defiant's heart, the fusion reactor that had powered the ship for 5 years began to tear itself apart. The magnetic containment failed. The fuel started to compress, building toward a critical mass. On the bridge, pointed the dying ship at the flagship. "Full power to engines," he said. "We don't have full power," replied. "Then give me everything we have left." The Defiant lurched forward, accelerating on its broken engines. It wasn't fast, it wasn't graceful, but it was moving. The flagship fired. The beam struck the Defiant head-on, tearing through what remained of the ship. But the human vessel kept coming, momentum carrying it forward even as it died. Watch from his command throne, his 4 eyes wide. He finally understood what the humans were doing. "Evasive action," he screamed. "Move, move now." But the flagship was too large, too slow. It had never needed to dodge before. It began to turn, but not fast enough. The Defiant, burning and broken, crashed into the flagship's shields. And then Jin's reactor detonated. The explosion lit up space like a newborn star. The Defiant's reactor released all its energy in a single instant, right against the flagship's shields. For 300 years, those shields had been called perfect, unbreakable, invincible. They lasted almost 2 full seconds. The chaotic, expanding wave of energy didn't just hit the shields, it fed into them. The shield generators tried to adapt, tried to counter the attack with opposite frequencies. But there were no opposite frequencies to chaos. The more the shields tried to compensate, the worse it became. Feedback loops formed. Power surged backward through the shield emitters. The generators exploded one by one, and then the shields collapsed entirely. The explosion struck the flagship's hull with nothing to stop it. The massive vessel, pride of an empire that had conquered 47 star systems, broke apart. Its spine snapped in the middle. Whole sections tore away and tumbled through space. The reactor core breached, adding a second explosion to the first. Died in his command throne, 4 eyes wide with disbelief. His last thought was impossible to understand. How could primitives do this? How could weak, fragile humans destroy something invincible? He would never know the answer. The shockwave from the explosion rippled outward, damaging every ship within range. 3 cruisers took critical hits. 5 destroyers lost their shields. The carefully organized fleet formation shattered into chaos. In an escape pod tumbling away from the battlefield, and watched through the small window. They'd made it off the bridge with only seconds to spare, diving into the pod just before the reactor went critical. Jin said quietly, "He stayed behind." "He gave us our chance," replied. His voice was rough with emotion. "He gave everyone a chance." Around them, dozens of other escape pods drifted in space. Crew members who'd made it off the Defiant before the explosion. Not everyone, but enough. The fleet was in disarray. There was dead. Their flagship was destroyed, and they'd lost over a dozen ships to a single human vessel. The remaining ships began to withdraw. They pulled back, regrouping at a distance. Their communications channels were filled with confused, frightened voices. This wasn't supposed to happen. They were invincible. They'd never lost before. But they'd never fought humans before. On Colony, 2 million people had watched the battle on their scanners. They'd seen the Defiant appear in the middle of the enemy fleet. They'd watched one small ship fight against impossible odds, and they'd seen that ship sacrifice itself to kill the enemy flagship. Now they saw the fleet retreating. The colony was saved. In his office, the colony governor stared at the tactical display with tears running down his face. "Send out rescue ships," he ordered. "Find every escape pod from that vessel. Those people are heroes, every single one of them." The rescue ships launched within minutes. They spread out through the debris field, scanning for life signs. They found Wu and 23 of his Marines in a damaged shuttle they'd stolen during the chaos. They found floating in her science lab, which had somehow stayed intact when it broke away from the ship. They found, and dozens of others. In total, 89 crew members survived out of the Defiant's 347, less than a quarter, but still, 89 people who shouldn't have survived at all. Jin wasn't among them. He'd stayed at his post to trigger the reactor breach manually, making sure it happened at exactly the right moment. His body was never recovered. There wasn't enough left of the engineering section to recover. 3 days later, a United Nations fleet arrived at Colony. 17 warships, ready to defend against the threat. But they were gone. They'd withdrawn from human space entirely, leaving behind only debris and their dead. Admiral commanding the relief fleet called Captain to his flagship. "Explain to me how you destroyed her with one ship," the Admiral said. Gave his report. He explained everything. The ambush in the asteroid field, the improvised weapons, the chaotic tactics, the final sacrifice. Admiral listened in silence. When finished, the Admiral sat back in his chair and shook his head slowly. "You violated direct orders to retreat. You engaged an enemy fleet that outnumbered you 40-1. You used experimental weapons that could have killed your own crew. You deliberately crashed your ship into the enemy flagship. Stood at attention, waiting for punishment. That," Admiral continued, "was the bravest and most brilliant piece of combat I've ever heard of. You saved 2 million lives and proved that they can be beaten. The United Nations is promoting you to Admiral and putting you in charge of our defensive fleet." Blinked in surprise. "Sir, I disobeyed orders." "Sometimes the right thing to do is disobey orders. You made a choice. You stood your ground when everyone else would have run. That's leadership." The promotion was just the beginning. Within weeks, the story of the Defiant spread across all human colonies and beyond. Other alien races heard about the battle. The Invincible for 300 years had been defeated by humans. Suddenly, humanity wasn't seen as weak anymore. Other races started approaching Earth with diplomatic offers, trade agreements, technology exchanges. Some even offered military alliances. The Empire pulled back from multiple sectors, not just human space. Their reputation of invincibility was shattered. Without that fear, many of the civilizations they'd conquered began to rebel. The Empire started to crumble. Was promoted to captain and given command of a new ship, also named Defiant. She designed new tactical training for all human fleet officers based on what they'd learned. The manuals were called Controlled Chaos Warfare and became required reading at every military academy. Led a research team studying captured technology. Within a year, human ships had shields based on designs, but improved with human innovations. The shields could adapt like ones, but they could also handle chaotic energy patterns. Wu became the head instructor for Marine combat training. His lessons focused on unconventional warfare, boarding actions, and fighting against technologically superior enemies. Every Marine learned his motto: size and strength mean nothing against determination. 6 months after the battle, a memorial was unveiled on Colony. It was a piece of the Defiant's hull, recovered from the debris field. On it were engraved the names of all 258 crew members who died in the battle. At the dedication ceremony, thousands of people gathered. The 89 survivors stood in a place of honor. Admiral stepped forward to speak. 6 months ago, the Empire told us to surrender. They told us they were invincible. They showed us their power by destroying a moon with one shot. They gave us 48 hours to give up everything we'd built. Paused, looking at the memorial wall. The crew of the Defiant had a different answer. They said no. Not because they thought they could win. They knew the odds. They knew they'd probably die. But they fought anyway because someone had to. Because 2 million people needed defending. Because humans don't kneel. He touched the metal of the hull fragment gently. They claimed they'd conquered 47 star systems. They claimed they'd destroyed hundreds of fleets. They claimed they were invincible. And maybe they were, until they met us. His voice grew stronger. "We don't fight because we're strong. We fight because we refuse to quit. We don't win because we're superior. We win because we're too stubborn to lose. We adapt. We innovate. We find a way, no matter how impossible it seems." He looked out at the crowd, seeing faces of every age. Civilians who'd been saved. soldiers inspired by the defiant sacrifice, children who would grow up knowing that humanity could face any challenge. They learned something that day, something every enemy of humanity eventually learns. You can have bigger ships, you can have better weapons, you can have technology we can't match, but you can't have our spirit, you can't break our will, and you can't make us surrender. Stepped back from the memorial and saluted. Every military member present saluted with him. The civilians placed their hands over their hearts. The Defiant earned her name that day, said quietly, and so did humanity. Later, after the ceremony, found standing alone by the memorial. She stood beside him in silence for a moment. "Do you think Jin knew," she asked, "that it would work?" "He was a brilliant engineer," replied. "He calculated everything down to the smallest detail. He knew exactly what would happen when the reactor breached against those shields. So he knew he was going to die. Yes, and he did it anyway. Touched the wall where Jin's name was engraved. That's what makes us human. We know the cost. We pay it anyway." Above them, stars filled the sky. Thousands of stars, each one a possible world. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders and dangers. Humanity was still new to it, still learning, still growing. But they had taught them something important. They'd shown humanity that power and technology weren't everything. That invincibility was just a word. That determination and ingenuity could overcome any obstacle. The Defiant was gone, but its legacy would live forever. In shipyards across human space, new vessels were being built, faster, stronger, better armed. Each one carried a small piece of the original Defiant's hull welded into their structure, a reminder, a promise. Humanity had been tested and had passed. The galaxy had seen what humans were capable of when pushed to the wall. Some races saw it as a warning, others saw it as hope. The Empire would never be the same. Their invincibility was broken. Their reputation was shattered, and they would always remember the day when a single human warship proved them wrong. Admiral looked up at the stars and smiled. Somewhere out there, other challenges waited, other enemies who thought humanity was weak, other battles to fight. Let them come. Humanity was ready.